Thanks for hearing from my channel. Please like, subscribe and support us if you feel interested. Empowerment Arc Chapter 20. Toward the village's revival. We finally arrived at the Goblin Village. We left the village only 2 weeks ago, but I feel somewhat nostalgic. Well, rather than calling it a village, it was just a square surrounded by fences. While we were out on the journey, what's left was just some small tent for living. The center of the village is marked by the bonfire. I noticed a big pot placed there. Roasting. It was the only cooking method before. It seems they improved. What an impressive progress. That pot over there. If you look at it closely, from its appearance it was made from the shell of a okami, big turtle. How far did they expand their hunting range? Well, it seems they did not get attacked by other monsters, so I feel relieved. Immediately after entering the village, the hobgoblin villagers noticed us. We were greeted by cheers. Unfortunately, I didn't bring any souvenirs. Oh well, it seemed their many fur, etc. from monsters they hunted. I'm sure the dwarves can turn them into clothes right away. Eventually, I want the goblins to be able to make it themselves. Now, to introduce the dwarves, I attempt to find Rigorudo so he can gather everyone. It seems it's not needed. Rigorudo came running. But he had a troubled face. What had happened? I tried to think of the answer to my question. Welcome back. I'm sorry I didn't greet you earlier when you came back. But Rimuru-sama, there are guests. Even if he is tired, he still feels obliged to greet me. I feel sorry. Guests? Someone I knew? Anyway, are the dwarves free in the village? I think they start inspecting around. The equipment I bought was stored in a vacant tent. I leave the care of the dwarves to Riguru. I was guided to the place where the guests were waiting. Rigorudo guided me into a large tent. Who is it? Well, when we meet, I will know. Thinking that, I enter the tent. I was surprised when I saw what was under the entrance of the tent. Over there are several goblins. Some were well dressed with several others that accompanied them. Chiefs, and they escorts? Why they didn't carry any weapons? Even though I don't see any problem. When I was perplexed, the goblins were all suddenly Dagiza, prostrate, kneeling. We greet you, O strong one. Can you please hear our humble request? They speak all at once. Strong one? It is exaggerated, but are they referring to me? I discerning them all, they're saying with serious tone and their eyes were all serious. I knew those eyes. What are they expecting from me? I thought so. Fumu, all here. I decided to hear their story. Then, we are really grateful. Our request is, we want to ask you so we can serve under you. One of them answered as the representative. The other all nodded in agreement. They asked with hope-filled eyes. Please take care of us. They deeply beg. Honestly, I thought it was troublesome right now. It's time for the village revival. I don't have time to spare for you guys. Although I want to say the otherwise, the fact is the people on this village just a few. Anyway, I predicted there will be turf wars going around here. I think it's okay to accept them in. Right now it's okay. But what if they'll betray us later? Although I'm a bit worried about it, if that happen I will exterminate all of I do not forgive betrayal. To lead monsters, wishful thinking will only get in the way. Everything must be dealt cold-headed. In order to determine my resolution, I will accept those guys. I assured myself again. Once these guys betray me, I will kill these guys. But, now that I think about it, how can I easily think of killing someone? I'm surprised by myself. Oh well, it better to worry about it later. By the way, it seems those guys are only a representatives. How many people do they have? To think about it, I must come up with names to give to all these guys all by myself. I let out a sigh. Each one of the goblins went back to their own village to bring home the news. Well then, I heard the story from the remaining delegates. Listening to the story, I summarize the contents. First, the cause that began to disturb the order in the forest. During the raid of Fanged Wolf Clan, the village of Rigorudo and others was abandoned. The cause was they could not afford to offer any warriors. The orc race, the lizardman race, and ogre race. It was some of the monsters with intelligence in this forest. They began to move in order to dominate the forest. Even until now, they had skirmish, but they are in tacit agreement so it did not lead into armed clashes. However, that is in response to the situation where the lord of the forest is gone. So far it seems the move to clear away their old resentment. Originally, monsters had a nature that likes to show off their power. Therefore, to clear away the accumulated resentment, each race prepared to move out. The goblin race is just a weak race, their presence is only for being trampled by them. Each chief, goblin, was in panic. In this state, they will be ruined by being involved in the fight. During the chief meeting, they carried out discussions every day, but they aren't very intellectual. The discussion ended without resulting in any solution. Meanwhile, the news of the attack from Fanged Wolf Clan was received, well, not far from it. Therefore, Rigarudo's village was forgotten. However, around the time the foodstocks became scarce, there was bad news. It was reported that a new threat in the forest has appeared. The rumor was about the black beasts and their riders. Those riders are running within the forest just like it was in plains. They hunted powerful monsters in the forest. When they received the report, they all were astonished. Who are those riders? Apparently, that's what it looked like for those goblins. In response to this report, opinion was divided. The first opinion claims that, any day now, those riders will take them under their protection. The second opinion claims that it's too suspicious. It must be some kind of trap. The ones who said it's a trap, there is no reason to bring us into a trap. They didn't listen when being persuaded. In addition, even if it's not a trap, it isn't necessary for us to accept it. Without intellect, only sadness, the words for conclusion can't come out. Therefore, they select a person as representative to ask for asylum. They told me that was the reason why they went to this place. I understand. Well, it was a good story from a small fries, alt, bug. However, even if the goblins are small, weak and lack intellect, there will be no one willing to help them. Either way, I decided to accept their request. But only those willing to come here. I told this to the representative of the goblins. Hearing my word, those goblins went back to their own villages. For now there is a problem. I think that after looking at the goblins that came here, isn't that a little too much? In the village's space, there are only a few accommodations. Or rather, why must I be worried about such a thing? For a few days, several axes were created. The newly created axes were used to cut trees. The collected timber was going to be processed, and would be used later to build housing. I leave the charge of the timber-related things to Kaijin. The three dwarf brothers diligently processed the fur, to make clothes for Hobgoblin. The three dwarf brothers as usual looked at the women, Gobarina, with sharp eye. It might be good, if they finish it quickly. When I told them to hurry to their work, the goblins came. From the 4 clans, collectively there are about 500 people. The rest of it, the opposing faction, stayed in the villages. They choose to stay. But right now the work is still not done. That's what I thought. I then checked my mind map. I'm looking for a suitable location near a water source so I can open farmland. I walked to the nearest place that meets my condition. The place was in the vicinity of the cave from the beginning. Fumu. I called Rigarudo, asking about the situation around that area. Around there was non-aggression territory. Because unlike in the forest, inside the cave, there is a nest of powerful monsters. Ah, there will be no problem. I used to live over there. What? Is that true? No, I was born over there so it's okay, there will be no problem at all. As I expected, de gozaimasu na. This Rigarudo, truly admire you. Is it really great? I was just born in that cave. Why does he have to be impressed with that? Well, as long as he's satisfied. Immediately, I went to talk with the youngest brother from the 3 brothers, Mildo, who had architectural-related knowledge. I and Mildo are consulting about various things. I told Mildo any knowledge I had related for various constructions from my previous life that I could remember. The current technology in this world, it measured it is on decent level with magic intertwines together. In addition of my knowledge I had, I plan to measure and survey the local area. I want to make some of kind treatment facilities for excrement which was necessary for goblins and dwarves. But it's not necessary for the black wolves. Anyway, you can make an underground sewer, or fermenting the excrement. I thought it was good as fertilizer. But when seen from sanitation side, it was common sense that it would easy for it to become the source of infection for infectious disease. That was what Mildo said to me. Well, can monsters like goblins become sick? It's what I thought, but it seems it is normal for getting an epidemic. It's the fate of weak monsters. Well, if it's because of poor sanitation, they would surely become sick. In case of the goblins, the number of birth exceed the number that die because of the strong fertility. It seems possible to maintain the numbers. But, by evolving, it seems the fertility has depleted. In exchange for that, it seems the lifespan extended. Mildo was well informed, though he didn't know much in topics related to processing the excrement. I confirmed that there were only a few world travelers in this world. In this world, had its own unique knowledge about spirit engineering. I heard it's mysterious and there weren't many explanations about it. Because there weren't many details known regarding the benefit of the excrement, he was surprised when listening to my story. Thus, the conclusion of the meeting, Mildo was appointed as the captain of the construction team. I let him take care of things that were his specialty. To Rigarudo, I instructed him to assign some people under Mildo, to go survey the project site. Ranga also accompanied them just in case. I think the monsters from the cave will not go out, but there is a possibility. If that happens, I'm sure Ranga can take care of it. Thus, Mildo and others, the construction team departed. The next was, naming. The thought is too depressing. To give names one by one for all 500 people. Any longer, I think it would turn to the forbidden ABCD, but I don't like to do something half-hearted. Immediately, I started giving them names. Again, I went to low activity state after giving them all names, but I was able to give names to everyone. The fatigue was less than the previous naming. It is something that you do. I do not want to do it again. I summoned the chieftains. They all kneeling in front of me, were the evolved chieftains led by Rigarudo, Rugarudo, Rigarudo, Rogarudo. Obvious, side by side. It's Ra Ri Ru Ri Ro. Coincidentally, Ra became Ranga. I think it's all appropriate, so it's okay. There is no one that object. I thought it was frantic. I forget about the name's appeal. I will work very hard. It was one of a good man's appeal. The one that was left over was a female. It's possible to determine the gender of goblins, but it hardly shows in the appearance. But when they evolve, the differences are recognizable. I thought of some feminine names, like Ririna. In the future, I wonder if this name can become a series or not. Although such an idea crossed my mind, I decided against such a thought. It's not needed right now. Well, in front of me the hobgoblins. I wonder if they capable with hierarchical relationship or not. Everyone is friends, everyone is equal. Those things were impossible in real life. In particular, for monsters that emphasize on power. A clear chain of command was necessary. I decided. Listen, I bestow to you guys this position. It was declared. Rigarudo was promoted to Goblin King. And, the remaining chieftains become Goblin Lord. In the surroundings, all of the goblins in the village prostrate themselves. I gulped my own saliva when watching such a spectacle. Waha tilde. We humbly receive your order. With that word as the signal, thunderous cheer rose up. A new history for goblins has begun. For crafting tools, Kaijin had prepared it. For clothes, under the command of Garm and Dold, had been produced steadily. For timber, it steadily provides the village with vacant land. By the time it was confirmed that all of the goblins had evolved, the planned construction for the new village began after Mildo came back after the survey. All were well. I checked the construction area for the new village. From its scale, it should be called a town rather than a village. Our new home. After confirming all the preparations and equipment, we all departed. Towards the new place, step forward. For our first step to create a new country. Thanks for hearing from my channel. Please like, subscribe and support us if you feel interested.